Hi, I'm with Charlie Thiemann today, and Charlie is the new pastor at Stroudwater in Portland. And I'm using this opportunity to get to know him personally on a better level, and wanted to introduce him to each of you across the region as well, so that you can welcome him and get to know him as one of our new pastors. So, Charlie, can you give us a little history about your life and calling and ministry?
Yeah, it's good to be with you, Greg. It's cool to as we're meeting each other and recording it, so everyone is experiencing this in real time that we're experiencing it.
Hmm.
Um, but so a little bit about my story is I've been born and raised in Tampa, Florida, my whole life. Really, it's the county across from Hillsborough in Pinellas County. Seminole, Florida is where I grew up, and I went to Christian school when I was growing up down the South. There's a lot of churches, a lot of Christian schools that are attached to churches, and so I went there, um, and really started my relationship with Christ through that. Like that's how I kind of got to know um, Jesus. I got to understand uh, a lot about the church and what life was like. Especially, I always called it the Christian bubble
Hmm.
because it was a big school, it was a big church. So you kind of felt nice and safe in that nest there. But really, for me, I don't think my faith really, I'd say, kicked off the training wheels um, until got in trouble at school, got kicked out of school, and then went to a public school. And I kind of recognized, I need to kind of get to know Christ now in a way of it's not fed to me anymore just because I'm there. Like I have to pursue after this. Um, and really, it was about 15 years old during that time period that I got an understanding of there's a little bit more to this following Jesus than knowing a lot or knowing the right answers. And I started actually helping out at a student department that was just filled with middle schoolers. And I was in high school at the time. The youth pastor had just gotten out of college. He's 22 years old, took this job, and it was next door to a middle school. So it was just filled with middle schoolers. And he's like, if you're in high school, I don't have a lot for you, but I really could use the help right now because it just grew too fast for him.
Hmm.
And I started doing small groups and then helping him out. And it was really during that time period I started feeling like this is I think I'd like to do this for the rest of my life. It was about 16 years old that I felt really truly called to the ministry. Um, and then kind of started that process at that age with a lot of pushes and pulls against God with my calling. I think as many people might be able to relate to that of, knowing I'm called to this, but thinking, I think I'll take a detour for a little bit and maybe try this over here. And God kind of always pulled me back on and showed me it's full-time ministry for your life. That's what I'd like from you. And it's kind of what led me to Stroudwater is following that path with a lot more in between, I'll say for time's sake.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, it's a little bit about my story, how I arrived.
Okay, great. Have you had other pastoral ministry experiences since high school?
Yeah, so I went into interning with churches, first kind of thing I did. Used to intern with young adult ministries, student ministries, things of that nature, and then really went into full-time ministry 5 years ago, um, overseeing a middle school, high school student department. Then I've also kind of done a lot of I think as a lot of people have worked in churches know, you have your job title and then you have the other things that you do and you start figuring out what your calling is inside of that. So started doing a lot of chapel services, preaching on campuses because we were a multi-campus church that I worked at, and started working with senior adults as well too, and started getting very involved inside of the community as well. And I think it was kind of like through working with students and in the community, kind of doing a lot of those extra roles that I started seeing like, okay, I'm getting older. I really feel like led now in this direction of following I'd love to be able to kind of give my whole self to a whole church. And yeah, that's a little nutshell of what I've been doing the past 5 years now. Full-time 5 years, then a lot of interning before that with some different churches and getting some opportunities to serve there as well too.
Nice. So as we were talking before, you're in Tampa right now enjoying the sunshine, and we're in the middle of a snowstorm. So
it's a big difference. Yeah,
gonna be a change for you. Why would you ever leave Florida to come to Maine? That's kind of the opposite direction of most people.
Well, I think somebody said it to me like, well, if somebody's calling you to that radical of a different change of weather, that's got to be God then pulling you, right? So, but yeah, I think that's what, for me, it really was looking for was, I just want to be open to where God's leading. And as soon as I think I opened my heart to, hey, wherever you want me to go, I'm just going to be obedient, and wherever that is, and it's not going to matter. It's going to be who's it for. Because I think ultimately, you're called to people. The location is great. I think it's funny too, from my understanding, up north, everyone's been a Patriots fan. So in Tampa, we swiped
don't go there. You don't have to mention that.
Oh man. and so we got Brady and they're trading me up north. So that's part of the
that's a fair trade.
Part of the deal. But yeah, it's funny. I just think it was for me, it was truly just being open to seeing like where God's leading. And then seeing the funny little kind of connection pieces in the process to give me some good little maybe laughs along the way, letting me know like, all right, God's kind of in this as well. So, but I'm going to enjoy the cold weather. I think I'm kind of sick of the heat.
Yeah. So is Bunjan coming too?
Oh, I don't know about that.
That's Tom's wife, but anyway, no. How about your family? Do you have a family?
So right now, I have a wife. Her name's Melissa, and we have a little dog. So that's my family. We'll be taken up north, and then actually we are going to start the process pretty soon, probably in about a year or two or so. We're going to start our family with kids with foster care. That's how we'd like to find all of our kids. We want to be able to go headfirst into foster care, love and live inside of that community as well too. I think that'll be a big part of our ministry to the outside of the church as well too, and connecting with people. And then we're just going to find our kids that way. So that's going to be an adventure. So somewhere up in Maine too is our kids that we will slowly find.
Wow, that's exciting. I love that concept and that heart for providing homes for lost people. And I once heard a statistic that if every family took in one foster child in America, there wouldn't be any orphans, something like that. But we have the means to really help alleviate some of that. So that's exciting that you have that on your heart.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely like things that both me and my wife have is trying to notice like where's crises inside of the world that we live in, and knowing like it's a huge one. And like if you look at the statistics of what happens to those who age out of the foster care program, it's heartbreaking to see what happens. And it's just because, a kid never got to have a family. So yeah, and I think that's something I would hope someday to be able to really contribute in the church as well too, is to continue to develop the heart for, widows and orphans, the poor, the marginalized, those who have not been given those opportunities in life. And I think that's what Jesus wants from us too, is to step into those spaces and live our lives there and bring his light there. So it's what we'd like to do. So it's going to be cool to be able to like truly take root and main in that kind of way too.
Yeah. And that's a great segue into one of my last questions for you. And that's what do you envision for your ministry at Stroudwater? I mean, you may not be able to get into specifics or anything like that right now, but ministering to the marginalized, and it's a big missions church. So what are your thoughts as you prepare for that ministry?
Well, I'll tell you that was one of the biggest things that drew us to the people there, is their heart for mission. I mean, that was the number one thing we were hoping to find, because I think heart wise, what we have right now for me and my wife is we want to be able to contribute in that way to a church for our whole lives, and give ourselves in that way. It's so funny, because I think right now, when you think about what's vision, I think everything's been so broken to pieces that you can't have this system that you can just plug in and say, here it is, this is what I'll do. But I think for what I'd love to be able to bring to Stroudwater is the first things are just going to be healing and grieving for what they've experienced, and losing their pastor Bill. He had served there as their senior for 30 years, and he passed away unexpectedly during the pandemic. And that's one of the most important things, is to be next to everyone who is still hurting and feeling that. And then the other part of it is COVID, is to help people reconnect as well. And those are the two most important primary things for individuals and us as a church. But I think mission wise, I think it's going to be very much so, how do we now see out in the community with these new lenses that we've been given through what this past year has done, and now to see like, all right, where will we now take ourselves after we've been healed in Christ, and then go and then give this to others who, I believe this world has experienced quite a bit of pain and suffering as well too. And I think that's what kind of church will be a church for those who are hurting, to give them a place to find healing and comfort. And those are the things that we'll pursue first. And I think that we'll want to give that back, and we'll find maybe new and innovative and creative ways to do that. And so that's the fun and exciting part of the pastor's job, is you get to stand next to people, help them find their callings, and then see, when the church comes together creatively and we collaborate together, what could we do different that we've never done before. And so those are the fun future things I'm looking forward to as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. Well, any parting thoughts or greetings that you want to pass along before we finish?
Well, I don't have any great words of wisdom or parting thoughts other than I think learning has been like, this has been the time period for learning, and I feel like we're all doing new things that we've never done before. And so I guess any encouraging words I can give for everyone who's maybe maxed out on, I can't learn another thing. I feel like God is definitely using this time period for us as ministers to adjust us in a way to maybe notice things that we haven't noticed before. So, and the openness, I think, of the church has been a lot more open to change during this time period, because we've been shook so much. We're ready for change. And so it seems like now is a better time than ever to take those risks that you normally maybe couldn't have taken before all of this. And so maybe take the chances you think that you'd like to take. I don't know. That's maybe my parting piece of advice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I can speak on behalf of all of our churches and pastors. We're looking forward to welcoming you and getting to know you better. And this family of churches that we have up here, we have a rich heritage here in New England, and we're glad to be able to share the hope of Christ and his second coming, and just pointing people towards Jesus. And that's our heart, and we are glad to welcome you as a brother to be a part of that proclamation of the good news as well. So looking forward to meeting you in person and throwing my first snowball your way.
I'm not even prepared for it. I've been told they hurt.
Yeah. And I did want to mention just the last word is that my wife's also named Melissa, and she has a little corgi. So sounds like we got some similarities there.
Yeah, it's a good name, and it's a good animal. So to have as a little dog. So yeah, that's awesome. That's a cool little connection there.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, I'll let you go, and I want to thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.